Greetings, friends. I want to take a moment and talk to you about the kind of faith that can serve God without fear. And honestly, I am not sure it's as possible as we'd like it to be, especially in an environment as volatile and as challenging as we're facing in this season of the 21st century. And yet, I do think that if perfect love casts out fear, then somehow there is a way by which, through grace, we can indeed serve God without fear. What it reminds me of is the kind of moment that takes place in the Advent season, the original coming of the Lord, when prior to the birth of Christ, the angel Gabriel visits Zacharias while he is offering up incense in the holy place in the temple, drawn by Lot to go in and offer incense. And he has an encounter with the prophetic archangel Gabriel, who says not to be afraid, that the Lord has seen fit to answer a prayer that Zacharias had long since forgotten in relationship to his wife being relieved of the disgrace of being barren. And yet in the history of Israel, God did this with Abraham and Sarah. God did this with Isaac and Rebekah. God did this with Jacob and Rachel. God did this with Manoah and his wife when it came to their son Samson. God did this with Hannah and her son Samuel. So now God is going to do it again, but there's something about Gabriel saying, "Don't be afraid." And I would argue that it's not just don't be afraid because of an angelic appearance. It's don't be afraid because of the day in which you live and the context in which you're living and the challenges that you're facing, because it was a very volatile era in a day of Roman oppression. When John the Baptist finally arrives, his father begins to utter prophetic words after having been silenced for his lack of trust in the message of Gabriel for 9 months. And when his tongue is loosed and he begins to prophesy, he prophesies about how his son John is going to be the forerunner, like the Elijah. He's going to let the sunrise from on high is going to visit. And he goes on to say, to serve the Lord all our days without fear. Just think about what we've been through in the last 2 years. Think about all that we've faced. Think about all the ways we've gotten shaken. And think about all the ways we've had to deal with disappointment, loss, grief, uncertainty, anxiety. Is it possible that there are ways in which God is inviting us to serve Him without fear? Not meaning that there's not going to be uncertain things that are taking place all around us, but in our hearts, when it comes to Him, He doesn't want us to be afraid. His love covers everything, and His love is all sufficient, and His love is what ultimately saves us again and again and again. I pray that as we move into this weekend, that we would remember that we serve a God who wants us to serve Him without fear, knowing that His perfect love will drive it out every time it shows up. And that may take 1,000 times a day, but He's ever available, He ever loves us, and He will ever deliver us, so that Zacharias promised to John the Baptist to serve Him without fear just might be more appropriate now than it's ever been, in a season of toxic uncertainty and the kinds of challenges we face. Let's trust in a God who's bigger than all of it.